Welcome back to our explainer on integral journalism. We're diving deep into Stefan Schultz's work, which really challenges some of the core ideas about the media's role in society. So, picture this. Stefan Schultz is just about done organizing hundreds of journalistic methods into his matrix. And right then, he has this huge realization. He saw that he hadn't just created a new set of tools for journalists. He was looking at a whole new way of seeing the profession itself. He understood that his framework wasn't just a small evolution of journalism. It was a revolution, a totally new paradigm that shakes the very foundations of how we think about news. So, what on earth is this new paradigm? Okay, let's break it down. So, this new way of thinking that Schultz identified, it all kicks off with one core idea. Journalists are not just neutral observers on the sidelines. According to Schultz, journalists have to let go of this illusion that they're just objectively describing what's happening in the world from some detached, outside perspective. I mean, really think about it. Every news story, every article, every single broadcast sends out ripples. By choosing what to cover and how to frame it, journalists are actively shaping everything, from public opinion and politics to the economy and even our own individual well-being. That's a huge responsibility. And this means that before we hit publish, we really ought to think carefully about the effects our work is going to have out there in the infosphere and do our best to strengthen the ones that actually serve society. But then Schultz had another realization. This whole thing was only half the story. You see, this systemic connection, it's not a one-way street. It's a cycle. It's not just that journalists have a way bigger impact on their environment than we usually think. The environment also has a massive impact back on them. And we're not just talking about the obvious influences, like an editor's feedback or an angry email from a reader. No, this goes way deeper. We're talking about deep-seated cultural biases, the unspoken rules and narratives of the newsroom, and even the overall maturity of the society we're living in. All of these invisible forces are constantly shaping how we think and feel as journalists. So Schultz argues that if we want to report in a truly fair, unbiased way, we have to become much, much more aware of these powerful, hidden influences. Okay, so let's see how this all clicks together into a powerful feedback loop that actually shapes our reality. So here's how it works. Journalists, through their reporting, help create a certain kind of public sphere, an infosphere. And then that infosphere turns around and rewards a certain type of journalism. You see? It becomes this self-reinforcing cycle. Schultz boils this whole concept down into 3 really powerful statements. And the first one is a simple but profound observation. Our reporting is an active force. It's an act of creation, not just some passive reflection of what's already there. And the world that we help create, well, it turns right back around and shapes who we are as journalists. So the really crucial point here is this reciprocal relationship, this back and forth. So instead of seeing journalism as a mirror that just reflects the world, maybe we should see it more like a loom. Journalists are the weavers, and the stories they tell are the threads they use to create the very fabric of our shared reality. Once you really understand this deep reciprocal relationship, it gives rise to a much greater sense of responsibility than is typically accepted in journalism today. And this brings us to a really stark contrast. The old way of thinking sees the journalist as this neutral observer, responsible only for getting the facts straight. But the new paradigm? It sees the journalist as an embedded co-creator who's responsible not just for accuracy, but for the impact of their work and for their own internal biases. According to Schultz, journalists should take responsibility for 2 big things. First, their impact on the infosphere out there, and second, for their own cognitive distortions, or as he calls them, their own inner fake news. And taking on both of those responsibilities, well, that requires a whole different way of thinking. It's not enough to just be a good writer or a great investigator anymore. You also have to be a systemic thinker, someone who can see the bigger picture and understand your part in it. And that takes a level of self-awareness and self-criticism that, let's be honest, is rarely taught in journalism schools. And while this kind of journalism sounds really demanding, the reward is incredible. It's a profound redefinition of the entire purpose of being a journalist. Because journalists who operate from this new paradigm, they aren't just chroniclers of events anymore. They become developmental companions of society. They become active participants in creating a more complex, more conscious, and more interconnected world, a world where we're all more aware of our impact on each other and on the planet. You know, this new world isn't some far-off utopia. It's already starting to emerge. And as journalists, we have a choice. We can either keep being passive observers, or we can embrace our role as co-creators and actively help shape the future we want to live in. The question is, which one are we going to choose?